Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another Minecraft discussion on this glorious day. Yeah, wow, it's beautiful. Little G and I are on Inspiration Bridge once again. Comes from inspire or in spirit, which means obviously we're receiving information from, the greater source. So anyway, my name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am very excited today to talk about authenticity and niceness. Because we authentics, when we're truly, remember, nobody's like a ride. We're all on the path, all of us. And we really begin to feel good in our skin, right off, and just keeps getting better and better and better. The more authentic we become, the more, genuinely in tune we are with our thoughts and our emotions and everything, the more joy we feel, the more aware of ourselves and our heart's desires we are, and the more aware we are of why we were put on this earth, right? I mean, it's just a great ride all the way around. That said, when we're authentic, it becomes very difficult to be inauthentic. It's like a force field. It's very, like when we become less tempted, and when the temptation is there, you can just feel it's like this, I don't know, like emotional, prickly thing that you're just like, oh, no thank you. And one of those things might be niceness. And people, tend to think out there, they say, oh, so-and-so's such a nice person. And when I used to hear that, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And now I'm like, I don't know. Does that mean, where are they on the authentic, path? I don't know. It's not my place to judge, just observing for sure. But I've learned to look at that word differently and to interpret it differently. And I'm going to give a shout out to Aaron Doughty, even though I haven't listened to him recently. I'm having a memory of him talking about this, and how when we become more real, we are less apt to swap out niceness for approval. Okay, so I'm going to jump into some children's books right now. One is my least favorite on this earth, which, as some of you know, is The Giving Tree, which in my opinion should be called Codependency for Kids. It's all about the tree who's a mother figure working her way down to a stump, still needing in her son's approval, who uses her and ends up, she has nothing left to give but a stump. I think you know the story. So that's my least favorite. And then one of the children's books that I'm a big fan of is The Velveteen Rabbit, because if you know the story, it's about a stuffed rabbit that belongs to a small child who gets very sick. And anyway, and we don't need to go that route, because I just want to explain to you the Velveteen Rabbit ends up having, I'm going to say her just to equalize, right? Her fur rubbed off, from life happening, and it's a great story about how once you become real, you can never become unreal again. Like once your fur's rubbed off from life, and this happening, that happening, adversity, and all the reflection, and then once you become real, you cannot become unreal again. So that is the story of the authentics, and it's a kid's book, and anyway, it's really good. And I remember actually when I went trucking along way back in the day at like 12 years old, to my mother's AA meetings, I remember just what a great feeling it was to be around the folks in AA. Like, even at just 12 or 13 at the anniversaries and hearing the stories. And I remember, I don't think I had read that book by then, but I had my own thoughts and words about it. I remember it felt like I was surrounded by velveteen rabbits. Just, again, I wouldn't have had the words at 12, but just not an ego in the place, just so real, because they've had all their fur rubbed off, and yeah, they were just surrounded by realness. But anyway, so this is the thing: once we become real, we cannot become unreal again. And so life happens where we're, especially in the workplace, where there's all kinds of dynamics going on and power differentials, and feeling like we have the need to please, and we can feel pulled out of our frames. We might disagree with something, especially in this particular political climate. And hear me when I say. It's not about becoming, warriors for confrontation either. That's not the same. In fact, I would say that the rule applies here that as, for parents of teenagers, ours are all young adults now, but choose your battles, because there's so much petty stuff that goes on out there that you don't really need to engage in. It's better to be kind than right sort of thing. We've talked about that too. However, when it's not that, and it's something that you disagree with, that's more of an integrity-based thing, like my friend Father Mike would say, you got to say how you feel, just with honesty and kindness. And so the authentic doesn't engage in social cowardice. I'm talking about when it's something integrity-based, not petty stuff, right? We don't. So that means you can politely, with honesty and kindness, say, I don't really agree with that. We can agree to disagree or whatever, instead of being yanked outside of your frame into other people's frames to swap out niceness for approval. So everybody's fine and okay. Are we okay? Because that's like saying, oh, are we okay? Are we okay? Did I check the box? Did I do what you wanted, even if you're not saying all that stuff, right? And that takes a hit on us, because whenever we're pulled out of our frame into other people's frames, even if it's just like a conversation, it doesn't have to be a big sacrifice of who we are, but it is a sacrifice of who we are, because the very second we're pulled out of our frame into the other person's frame and swapping out, niceness for their approval, we are saying, what you think of me is more important than what I think of me. So thank goodness I smoothed it over and have your gracious approval, because now I can go on with my day. Crap. No way. And that right there is self-abandonment of just the highest order. Self-abandonment, there's nothing worse we can do to ourselves. Like, that's the one. It's self-abandonment, is also self-betrayal, and it takes, even if it's a small conversation, not some huge big thing, it does take a hit on us, because we've put somebody else before ourselves in not a good way. We've abandoned who we are, and it's just toxic. It's so terrible. So when we talk about authenticity, that doesn't mean you're Mr. Nice Guy anymore. In fact, it's the opposite, So we try to be mindful of that. Being authentic means being true to yourself within your frame, swimming, doing the backstroke in authenticity, which means staying in there, right, and monitoring what's outside. So once you're along that path, again, you become a little bit more sensitive. Oh, I feel like I'm being pulled out of my frame. I can feel it like this fast now. It's like anything. When you practice it, you get better at it, right? We can actually practice being authentic. Yeah, it's true. Okay, so authentic doesn't necessarily mean nice. So make sure when you are being nice, are you being authentically nice, or are you swapping it out for approval? That is the question. Okay, this is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful, lovely day today, windy, northern Vermont. Have a mindful, very authentic day.